Imagine a nation whose founding document contains two completely opposite opinions about its own government. One says the king was chosen by God, and the other says the king was a punishment from God. Both are presented as true. And that's exactly what the book of 1 Samuel does. In one passage, God tells the prophet Samuel to anoint a king over Israel. In another, God tells Samuel the people have rejected him by asking for a king. The editors who assembled this text kept both versions. They didn't smooth out the contradiction. How did this happen and why did they preserve it? To understand why this debate exists, we need to see what was falling apart. First Samuel opens with not one crisis, but three all hitting at the same time. A religious crisis. The old priest Eli is aging, his sons are corrupt, and the text tells us the word of Yahweh was rare in those days. A political crisis. No worthy successor exists, and God declares he will cut off Eli's entire priestly line. And a military crisis. The Philistines, Israel's most dangerous enemy, defeat the Israelite army and capture the Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred object in Israel. The collapse is total. Eli's two sons die in the battle against the Philistines. When a messenger brings the news to Eli that his sons are dead and the ark is captured, Eli falls from his chair, breaks his neck, and dies. The priesthood is destroyed. The military is shattered. The ark is gone. Israel's tribal confederation, a loose alliance of 12 tribes without a central government, has no mechanism to respond. Every institution has failed simultaneously. This isn't a single problem with a simple fix. It's a systemic breakdown across every dimension of Israelite society. Into this vacuum steps Samuel. He's one of the most remarkable figures in the Hebrew Bible because he combines three roles that no single person held before or after. As a priest, he serves at the shrine, offers sacrifices, and builds altars. As a prophet, the text also calls him a seer, an older term for someone who receives divine visions. He hears God's word directly and will later anoint Israel's first two kings. And as a judge, he leads Israel to military victory over the Philistines and travels a judicial circuit through the tribal territory of Benjamin, settling disputes. Where the word of Yahweh had been rare, now it flows through Samuel. He is the answer to all three crises in one person. But Samuel isn't enough. The Philistine threat reemerges. Samuel grows old, and his own sons turn out to be corrupt, an eerie echo of Eli's failure. The succession crisis returns. A tribal confederation simply cannot sustain coordinated defense against a permanent organized military threat. The representatives of the 12 tribes come to Samuel at Ramah and make their demand. Appoint a king to govern us. Samuel was the bridge, but the people wanted something permanent. And this is where the text does something extraordinary. 1 Samuel chapter 8 presents the anti-monarchic case. When the people demand a king, God tells Samuel, "It is not you they have rejected, it is me they have rejected as their king." God instructs Samuel to warn the people what monarchy will cost, and Samuel's warning is devastatingly specific. He calls it the rights of the king. Here's what a king will take from you: your sons, conscripted for his chariots, his cavalry, his infantry; your daughters, put to work as perfumers, cooks, and bakers; your best fields, vineyards, and olive groves, seized and given to his officials; a tenth of your grain and flocks, taxed for his court; your servants and donkeys, commandeered for his own use. The climax: you yourselves will become his slaves, and the day will come when you cry out because of the king you have chosen, and the Lord will not answer you on that day. No, here's where it gets strange. Turn the page to chapter 9, and the tone reverses completely. God himself tells Samuel, "Tomorrow I will send you a man from the tribe of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him prince over my people Israel. He will save my people from the Philistines, for I have seen their suffering." This isn't the people's rebellion, it's God's initiative. God chooses Saul. Then in chapter 11, Saul proves himself. When the Ammonites besiege the city of Jabesh Gilead, Saul rallies the tribes, crushes the enemy, and the people confirm him as king at Gilgal in celebration. Here, monarchy looks like divine provision, not divine punishment. Map the pattern, and the editorial architecture becomes visible. Chapter 8, anti-monarchic. The people demand a king. God says they've rejected him. Samuel warns of tyranny. Chapter 9, pro-monarchic. God sends Saul to Samuel, divine initiative. Chapter 10, verses 17 to 27, anti-monarchic again. Samuel rebukes the people at Mizpah. Chapter 11, pro-monarchic. Saul's victory. The people celebrate. Chapter 12, anti-monarchic. Samuel's farewell speech chastises the people for asking for a king. Anti-pro, anti-pro, anti. The reader is thrown back and forth between completely opposite assessments. Scholars call these anti-monarchic and pro-monarchic sources passages that view kingship negatively versus positively, and the editors wove them together deliberately. Now zero in on the people's response in chapter 8, verse 20. We must have a king over us, that we may be like all the other nations. That phrase, like all the other nations, is theologically explosive. Israel's entire covenant identity rests on being a holy nation, set apart, governed by different rules under God's direct rule. Right? To demand to be like all the other nations is to reject the very premise of that identity. The anti-monarchy argument runs deeper than bad governance. It's about apostasy. So why did the editors keep both versions? They could have smoothed out the contradictions. They didn't. Consider what a simpler text would look like. A royal court document would include only the pro-monarchic version. God chose Saul. The people rejoiced. End of story. A purely prophetic polemic would include only the anti-monarchic version. The people sinned. God reluctantly allowed it. First, Samuel does neither. It preserves both accounts side by side. The view of kingship is both positive and negative. Saul's selection is both divine initiative and human rebellion. The tone is deliberately ambivalent. The purpose is to preserve the debate itself. This ambivalence about political power echoes forward through the entire Deuteronomistic history, the editorial tradition that shaped the books of Joshua through kings. Every king who follows Saul will be judged by a single criterion. Did he serve God, or did he interpose himself between God and the people? Exactly as Samuel warned in chapter 12, the tension between kingship as necessary and kingship as dangerous is never resolved. It becomes the lens through which Israel evaluates every ruler for the next 400 years. The book of 1 Samuel doesn't answer the question of whether monarchy was right or wrong. It preserves the argument itself and trusts the reader to sit with the tension. 3,000 years later, we're still debating the same question.